Hi, my name is Philip, and today I'll be talking about what I learned in the letter from Birmingham jail by Martin Luther King Jr. I learned that the injustices that people faced during the civil rights movement weren't simply legal disputes like being able to vote and having certain civil rights, but there was a deeper level of moral and physical implications. King clearly defines what just and unjust laws are, arguing that most people should have or all people should have a moral obligation to engage in these. The suppressed shouldn't wait for their freedom, and that they should fight for it. And because I feel like a huge point is the fact that the white moderate, how the white moderates' apathy and how they prefer the peace and order that comes from not fighting for these things, because they were ignorant and they were negligent. And I feel like this is more, or King says this is more frustrating than actual outright hate like racism and sexism, because when these people don't move, when they don't do anything, it ultimately suppresses those who are facing injustice. This taught me that freedom is not granted. This taught me that freedom is not granted, but it must be seized by creating a constructive, nonviolent tension. And King had an emphasis on the nonviolent aspect, whilst other people. Oh, sorry, I didn't learn that. That's my own research. Ultimately, King's argument comes from the quote, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere," which underlines how people are all connected, which proving his necessity for his intervention in Birmingham, because it was about to go violent. For the second part, for years before 1920 and after, women were fighting for equal protection under the law. It's interesting to me that we always say they were given the right to vote when it was a hard-fought war, not just a battle. In the late 1800s, women began speaking up about the inequity of not being able to vote, but white men were the only ones given, especially those who were landowners. There were ups and downs all over, especially when abolitionists and suffragists suffered from different stances on African American rights, as African American women had such a monumental impact on the suffrage movement, even when their white counterparts would often have dissent or were ignorant of these issues. For example, Carrie Chapman Catt wrote a letter to a Southern congressman to vote for the 19th Amendment, saying things along the lines of having white women vote would secure white supremacy, as the white vote would far exceed the black vote. And she did this to convince a Southern congressman to vote for the bill. Even after 1920, there was still suppression in women's voting, especially for African American women who lived in the South under Jim Crow's laws, as they faced voter suppression through poll taxes, grandfather clauses, literacy tests, and many more horrific things. The turning point for women's suffrage before 1920, leading up to the 19th Amendment, was World War I, when 9 million women joined the war effort, and President Woodrow Wilson would begin supporting them. And the Senate in 1918, or Congress, and then the Senate and Congress would soon follow in 1918 and 1920 after that, and then 36 states would vote after that, or they voted for it as well in 1920, which ratified the bill. Though the amendment passed in 1920, we can clearly see there were years of fighting from women and African American women, especially because the whole civil rights movement supported all of their African American rights and women's right as a whole. And because even though the 19th Amendment passed, there was still inequity. Even now, we see inequity because states can choose certain rights, as the Equal Rights Act was never set in the Constitution. Thank you.